Is this crazy? We stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in the history. Make America great again. How can you be against it?
Welcome to Sidebar from the Washington Post. I'm Libby Casey here with Rhonda, Colvin, and James Hohmann. It's a nonstop news week here in Washington. Around the clock at that, Rhonda and James, from late night negotiations over President Trump's signature tax and spend bill to its passage this morning that apparently at least one Republican slept through, Rhonda?
Very true.
He is in trouble.
And might get primaried.
And more diplomatic pandemonium in the Oval Office this week as President Trump confronts another world leader in really a shocking public display. So on today's show, we'll do a roundup of some of these biggest stories that I've already mentioned, as well as Donald Trump getting that Qatari jet after all. Also, political interference in intelligence assessments and Trump's big crypto dinner tonight. But first, we're going to start with really some terrible and shocking news, James, something that happened yesterday evening. 2 young people, a couple who worked at the Israeli embassy here in Washington, were shot and killed in what FBI officials say will be investigated as a possible hate crime. What do we know?
It happened just after 9 p.m. as they were leaving an event organized by the Young Professional Group of the American Jewish Committee. Attendees had heard from speakers who worked for organizations doing work on humanitarian crises in the Middle East and North Africa. They left the Capitol Jewish Museum and they were shot by a gunman who witnesses say was shouting, "Free, free Palestine." The victims are Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. She was 26. He was 30. They were planning to get married. He'd bought a ring and was going to propose next week. She got a degree in international relations and Asian studies in 2021 at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He was a research assistant in the Israeli embassy's political department, and she organized missions and visits to Israel. Very, very sad news that has a lot of people in Washington on edge.
And we see a real coordination right now between D.C. police, the mayor of D.C., White House officials, Trump officials, and we'll see how the news evolves.
Yeah.
This morning at 7 a.m., the news somehow marched on despite that tragedy as the House passed that massive Republican bill, Rhonda, that has been President Trump's big priority. So we're going to pivot now to talk about that because it was passed at about 7 a.m. And we talked about that bill on Sidebar just a couple days ago. It was like a big question mark if it could get through that fractured House. I remember us talking about those 5 families of Republicans and whether or not they can get on board. Anybody watching on YouTube sees Speaker Johnson there saying they passed the bill very narrowly. Chance of USA broke out on the Republican side of the aisle. Rhonda, how did they pull this together?
Well, you mentioned that we didn't know what would happen on Tuesday. I don't think we knew what would happen as late as yesterday afternoon. I was on the Hill and there was sort of this energy where people just didn't know yet. The rules meeting, which started at 1 a.m. early Wednesday morning, was still going. I think it ran for about 22 hours. I don't know if that's a record. It might be a congressional record.
When Libby said late night negotiations, I think she meant to say all night negotiations because they didn't really end. Yeah,
it did not end. I kept checking in. There were a lot of energy drinks you saw in that meeting.
Celsius is the drink of the moment. Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of coffees. But as you said, it was passed in the early morning hours of Thursday. And it is now officially known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So again, this is the House version. It'll go to the Senate, and we can talk about that in a minute. But what's in it that likely won't change? It is an extension of the Trump tax cuts from 2017. What's new about that is it does include the no tax on tips. It also includes tax deductions on auto loans if the car is made in the U.S. Those are some things that are, bipartisan and that Democrats could also get behind. But no Democrats voted for this, and we can also talk about that a little later. The SALT cap was raised. That was another sticking point we had talked about earlier, where Republicans from states that have higher taxes wanted that cap to either be removed or raised. It was raised in this version. Also, the debt limit has been lifted to $4 trillion. That's the U.S.'s borrowing limit on programs that are already funded. So it's been a assess that the U.S. could go into default in around August. So this would keep that from happening. Now, of course, to pay for all of this, there are the cuts. And the biggest thing is the Medicaid cuts. In this bill, there are new work requirements. Almost about 8 million people could lose their coverage of Medicaid. The cuts to Medicaid will also come into effect earlier. That, again, was another sticking point with some Republicans who wanted it to come into effect in 2026 versus 2029. SNAP benefits also have been cut. A lot of people who rely on food assistance may experience that they will no longer be able to be on the program, or will provide more proof that they need the help with food. So that's in there.
I mean, bottom line, fewer people will get that government
Right.
assistance, so it will not cost as much because fewer people will be benefiting.
Right. And also in this, in the SNAP benefits portion of this bill, it is making states pay a share of that benefit when they formerly did not. So if this passes, states will now have to pay. So as I think we talked about on Tuesday, the impact of this is that the Congressional Budget Office still says that this is going to add trillions to the deficit over time. And as I said, nearly 8 million people could lose their coverage on Medicaid. So this is a big deal. Now it heads to the Senate, which that's a huge question mark. They are going to leave for their Memorial Day recess after tomorrow. So they're not picking this up. But when they get back, we'll have to see if, some of the demands from Republicans in the Senate who have said we need to break this up into 2 or 3 pieces, if that might stall some things, we'll just have to see. But that's where we are right now.
Mike Johnson says that he wants to get this through the Senate, the House to vote it again, and to Donald Trump's desk by July 4th. It's an aggressive goal.
Very ambitious. Yeah.
It's ambitious. Technically, they have until the end of the year to do this, but they feel like they want to get this through. We'll see what certain senators have to say about that. I mean, it really is kind of amazing that the final margin was 215 to 214 with one voting president. I mean, that's
So one Republican, Andy Harris.
The Republican from Maryland, the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, one of those 5 families we talked about on Tuesday, he said he voted to move the bill forward. I don't think it was completely where I would need it to be, but it was a vote to move along. Obviously, if I voted no, it would have gone nowhere. He said he still wants to see more deficit reduction and more cuts to Medicaid, and the bill didn't do that.
Well, what he succeeded in doing is we're giving him like a shout out and talking about what he wants, right? What he didn't get. But let's play Speaker Johnson talking about why the margins were as tight. I mean, we knew it'd be tight, but why they were as tight as they were. 2 Republicans didn't show up. Let's watch.
By the way, I just want you to know for the record, we really had 217 votes this morning. Andrew Garbarino did not make it in time. He fell asleep in the back. No kidding. I know. I'm going to just strangle him. But but he's my dear friend. And then David Schweikert was going to vote and slipped his card in right at the last minute. So it looks like a razor-thin margin, 215 to 214 and one president. It was really 217, okay? Will y'all put a footnote somewhere in history on that thing?
Speaker Johnson making a little bit light because he still won, right? He got over that threshold. It's sort of like that Southern, like, bless his heart. Like there's going to be some.
I mean, in practice, a win is a win.
It's a win, right.
But now every single House Republican who voted for it can get hit in campaign commercials next year that say Congressman so-and-so was the deciding vote to cut Medicaid, that kind of thing.
What a great point, James. What changed? Do you know what changed?
Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump was the key factor. It's really actually hard to overstate how this was stalled and he got it across the finish line.
I mean, Rhonda said we didn't know a few days ago and it was definitely up in the air, but I was sort of like, of course this is happening because Trump's not going to let it not happen, which is interesting, like which presidents have the ability to get their team in line. But I guess we'll see if he can do it with the Senate as well.
He probably will. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be moments where it looks like it's in jeopardy, but Donald Trump is in control and he really has. I mean, there were 2 no votes on the Republican side, Warren Davidson from Ohio and Thomas Massie from Kentucky. But I think a lot of the others who had drawn red lines basically caved because Trump said voting against this would be a betrayal. And he really was the closer. And now there's actually a couple things where on the speaker vote, the budget, the continuing resolution, they were stuck until Trump came in, twisted some arms, and got it done.
Big win for Mike Johnson, Rhonda?
I would say for now, yes. I mean, this has been his whole era as speaker is he's had these very close votes. They've had whip counts that go right up to when the vote is called, not knowing if it'll pass or not.
The
So he was
oversleeping
able.
thing is like everyone's worst nightmare.
It
Like,
is.
that
In most
like-
jobs, it is.
The dream where you
Really
didn't show
had
up for the
that
test in
nightmare.
college for the
Right.
final.
In most jobs,
I've actually
it's terrifying.
had nightmares about missing this taping in real life. Like I have had that nightmare.
No, I think we all have, but
Yeah.
think about the razor thin majority Republicans have. I mean, it will make or break a bill if a Republican is sleeping, or like the Arizona representative who came in late. But again, this transpired over the course of 24 hours, and they were at the Capitol for a lot of those hours.
So I'm going to make another pivot, another hard pivot here. James, we've been watching how the Trump administration is defending its use of the Alien Enemies Act. And you'll remember that this was used to remove Venezuelans from this country, to deport them, but not just to send them home to Venezuela, but to actually put them in prison in El Salvador. It's come under massive legal scrutiny. And the new news is that officials at the National Intelligence Council also had some concerns.
So this has been one of those slowly unfolding stories, and the more we learn, the more troubling it gets about the political appointees getting involved, getting their hands into the intelligence product. There's a long tradition of independent intelligence analysis to help policymakers decide what the policy should be. And so what happened over the last couple of weeks is the Washington Post reported that there was this memo that was classified that said that the Venezuelan government actually was not directing Tren de Aragua, which undercut what the Trump administration was saying in court to justify these deportation flights. But we keep learning more and more. And the latest news today is that emails have come out that show that Joe Kent, who is the chief of staff to Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, said, quote, "We need to do some rewriting so that, quote, this document is not used against the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, or POTUS, that is Donald Trump." And so basically he was trying to tweak what was supposed to be sort of straight objective intelligence analysis to support the administration's agenda. Even in the run up to the Iraq war with WMDs, the Bush administration never did anything like that. They tried to cherry pick the intelligence that was there, but they didn't try to rewrite what the work product that was being created. And so Tulsi Gabbard has, since this back and forth, fired Michael Collins, who is the acting head of the National Intelligence Council, and his deputy. She's calling them deep state bureaucrats, but really they were just doing their job of preparing objective intelligence analysis.
Yeah. Something else that happened this week is President Trump had yet another Oval Office meeting that wasn't just him sitting down with a world leader, maybe some staffers or other important people in the room. He had the entire world watching. And Trump used that Oval Office meeting to bully, shame, sort of convince, in this case, the president of South Africa. I'm sure the Oval Office has been used for all of those things many times. It comes with a lot of what is the word I'm looking for? Like it has so much authority. It's the Oval Office of the White House, the President of the United States. But what Trump is doing is he is doing it publicly in front of the cameras and the entire world. The media is basically a cudgel, a tool. So let's talk about South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to the White House. And before we play some tape of this, what was the goal here, James? I mean, they've had a tough relationship.
They've had a tough relationship, and indeed, South Africa is sort of uncomfortably aligned with Russia on Ukraine. They are not always as good an ally as they should be, but over the last couple of weeks, the United States, even as Trump shuts down refugees from other countries, has begun accepting Afrikaners, white South Africans, as refugees into the United States, multiple planefuls. And the United States has also signaled that it's boycotting the G20 big annual conference that's supposed to be in South Africa. And so I think the South African president was trying to basically reset the relationship with the U.S., try to smooth things over with Donald Trump, and really flies into this, pretty brutal session that is televised and on camera.
Well, President Ramaphosa at first, Rhonda, was being very gracious, a gracious guest, sort of giving Trump a lot of accolades and trying to sort of do that diplomatic thing that Trump seems to love.
Yeah.
He was playing his role, right?
Right. And I think what's interesting now and somewhat unique to the Trump presidency is that as you mentioned, the Oval Office is being used almost like a TV show where these heads of states are coming in and not sure what type of Trump they're getting. Think of the Carney meeting, think of the Zelensky meeting. And it does look like the president of South Africa, did his homework and was ready. He even brought officials from South Africa. And one of the things on top of what James mentioned that the South African president was here for is he said he wanted to talk about trade. He had his agricultural minister there. So he felt like he wanted to have control of this meeting, directed in one direction. And at points it did go off the rails.
So some of these folks you brought along were there to say, look, there's not a genocide happening against white South Africans. That word is very loaded. I mean, it comes with a lot of true qualifications of what constitutes a genocide. So let's listen to how this sort of unspooled after that.
I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture.
And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what and I have other friends in South Africa, I have people that left, one in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land, and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do.
James?
It's not okay. It's not, there's not a sanctioned expropriation of resources the way we previously saw in like Zimbabwe. There has been violence in rural parts of the country. This has been something that has been percolating on the right for many years now before Trump. This was something Tucker Carlson used to talk about constantly on his show. And Elon Musk, who was from South Africa and left, has been very critical of the South African government.
And important to mention Elon Musk because he does have the president's ear.
And he was in that meeting. He was standing there watching.
Yeah. So one thing that the South African president sort of at some point joked about was like, I wish we had a plane to give you, right?
He did say that. He said, I don't have a plane to give to you.
Yes.
Because at this time, the news about the Qatari plane came out where the Pentagon said it is official. We are accepting this plane.
Boom.
What a great transition.
Trump gets his plane. How did this happen? James?
I mean, the Qataris put it forward. Trump wanted it to happen. He basically is sort of brushing aside a fair number of Republicans on Capitol Hill criticizing him, including senior members of the Armed Services Committee in the House and the Senate. A lot of Republican members expressing security concerns, and not only about like eavesdropping and bugging of the plane, but retrofitting it so that it can handle a president during a nuclear attack or an emergency, a 9/11 style kind of situation. But Trump really wanted it. Pam Bondi, the attorney general, who was a paid lobbyist for Qatar until not that many months ago, said it was kosher. And Trump, I think, thought he'd be praised for getting this great deal. But I think he's determined to get the plane. He's been eyeing it for a while, but he's been sort of frustrated by some of the blowback from not just Republicans, but also sort of criticism in the media, because he thinks, as has said, like, why wouldn't I take a $400 million plane that someone's giving us?
Yeah, let's listen to some of that sort of back and forth, the parrying, and then I was going to say sort of mocking, but no, it's belittling and trash talking a member of the media who had the gall to bring it up. This is also from the Oval Office meeting yesterday. NBC's Peter Alexander had the gall to ask about the plane, and let's listen to the exchange.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
You got to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. You ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you.
Donald Trump threatening Peter Alexander, as well as threatening his career. Side note, Peter Alexander is an incredibly gracious and kind human and a great reporter. But other than just like being, very angry and critical. There's a threat there. There's an important threat that we can't ignore, Rhonda.
Yeah, that's true, especially when he calls out, an executive at NBC, and we already know the situation that's going on between Trump and CBS. It was interesting that the exchange went on for so long because
that was only part of it.
Right.
We could have played more.
Right. And it wasn't, we are used to right now seeing Trump call reporters idiots. And I think he actually did later call Alexander an idiot later in the Oval Office and it pointed to him. So that exchange went on for a while. It does show the hostility that the president has had against the media. And to also let people know who aren't familiar with how those scenes work, reporters are gathered in there, and oftentimes some do ask questions about breaking news that just happened. And as we just said, that news about the plane had just broke while that meeting was taking place.
Yeah, there's no script.
Right. So you do sometimes take the opportunity to ask a question that may not be about South Africa, but is about something that's newsworthy. So that wasn't out of place, but it does show the hostility that the administration has had against the media.
And the threat to the news organizations.
Oh, yeah. Trump is also challenging the independence of the Federal Communications Commission, and Brendan Carr, the chair of the FCC, which regulates the broadcasters, has said he doesn't see himself as independent, that he works for Trump. And so when Trump is saying so-and-so should be investigated, the FCC sees that as a directive. And it is chilling because it's clear in that instance that Trump is saying NBC should be investigated because he doesn't like the questions they're asking, not because of anything else.
Well, stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk to our colleague, Drew Harwell, who, among other wild stories, Drew's always reporting on like the wildest stories, is reporting on the crypto dinner that Donald Trump is hosting tonight. We're looking at who might be attending, how they might be attending, and what the heck, who makes all the money. Stay with us. You're listening to Sidebar from The Washington Post. A reminder, you can watch along with us by going to YouTube. Just look for The Washington Post and you'll find all of our Sidebar episodes. Joining us now, technology reporter Drew Harwell. Drew, it's so great to see you. You are reporting on this dinner that Donald Trump is hosting tonight at one of his golf courses. The lucky top 200 purchasers of his meme coin get to hang out with the president. There's all sorts of perks and other things. How is this passing the ethical smell test, Drew?
Great question. The thing that jumps out to me is most of these meme coin buyers are foreign investors, as far as our reporting can find. Foreign nationals are forbidden from giving money to political candidates in this country, have been for a long time. And yet there are no rules, because this is crypto and a meme coin thing. There's no rules preventing them from giving Trump's company as much as they want, and a lot of them have given a lot of money. So this was a night to remember, as the Trump company called it. They said the people who have the most meme coins will get invited to this gala dinner at the Trump National Golf Club in Sterling, in Virginia, outside DC, and people poured money into the coin to qualify, including, there's a Singaporean meme core crypto collective. There's buyers from China, Southeast Asia, all across the world. And they're coming to see the president, to be in this private event where there are no cameras or recording devices or journalists allowed. So it's just a completely unusual situation. The founding fathers never weighed in on meme coin events, as is probably unsurprising. But also it just kind of runs into all of our, preconceived ideas around conflicts of interest and what's acceptable, and Trump is blurring the lines again.
James, let's talk about who benefits from the sales and purchasing of meme coins. It's not like these people are going to this dinner with a bag of money to give to Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump's getting a cut. It sort of is putting more liquidity. Trump, every time there's a transaction, he gets some. And it's part of this company, World Liberty Financial, that the Trump kids are involved with. On the website, it says that Trump is I think Drew can correct me if I'm wrong, but the chief promoter for crypto. And then Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary's son, is also involved in some of the crypto initiatives. And so is, I think, Steve Witkoff's son. So you have this whole situation where, it is very ethically murky. And it actually does. I mean, Drew's right that the founders didn't think about a crypto situation, but the founders thought about situations akin to
Bags
this.
of money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
when he's saying Chinese nationals are getting special access to the president because they spent money that's going to go some
Mhm.
of which to him, it does raise the eyebrow, and it's actually, it's more egregious than the Qatar plane, because the Qatar plane is going to the US government, and the Air Force, Trump wants to use it as presidential library after. This is not disclosed. There's no, FEC form. This isn't even a campaign contribution. And this is just for the Trump family's personal benefit.
What's been the congressional reaction, Rhonda?
Well, it's been notable that one Republican in particular in the Senate, Cynthia Lummis, has said that this has given her pause, this dinner. And she has been the lead senator on trying to figure out regulations surrounding cryptocurrency. In fact, this may have gotten lost in all the budget news this week, but the Senate did advance a measure. It's called the Genius Act. That is the first time where they're setting up some regulations with stable coins. So they're kind of catching up. To Drew's point, it's not in the Constitution directly about cryptocurrency, but it does look like the legislative branch is trying to catch up. But Republicans are they're concerned at what this looks like, where this will go, because nothing seems to stop Trump right now.
Well, Democrats are really concerned.
Yes, they are very.
Tell us who's been really outspoken on this. And what
All of them, united, both House and Senate Democrats. As soon as the news came out on this, I immediately started hearing about the emoluments clause and how this is a scandal and no one else would be able to do it. And in fact, I was actually thinking, remember the Clinton scandal, Clinton era? I was not working at the Washington Post at the time, but I do remember that Clinton scandal.
Oh, the Lincoln
about
bedroom.
Yes,
right?
you remember
Okay,
that?
so
And
tell
that.
us, yeah. What? So what was the
Right.
the
Well,
scandal?
the Clintons were accused of selling access to the Lincoln bedroom to donors to their campaign or Democrats. And it was a big deal back then,
Yeah.
right? But that was campaign donations, and that's not absolving it. But Trump's crypto relationship with crypto would benefit him. That's what we're finding, which, that's why it's concerning to lawmakers.
Drew, what are you going to be watching tonight? What are you looking to be able to see or get insights into, since so much of this is really opaque?
Social media, basically. I expect a lot of these crypto people will be gloating about it on X and Discord and wherever else. I mean, that's going to be basically our only look into this room. But I think a lot of them will keep it under wraps. I mean, a lot of these people are anonymous. They are proudly faceless. They have a lot of money involved, and so my question is, what more can we learn about the people in the room, and what are they talking to Trump about? What are they going to be pushing him on? Are they really going to try to get him on their side on crypto regulation or lack thereof? And how are they going to really play this to their advantage? They gave a lot of money to Trump. What are they going to do with it?
James, what questions are you asking about this? I mean, Trump is saying, and his team is saying, we're being totally transparent about all this stuff, from the Qatari jet to what we're doing with meme coin.
And they're really not, but Democrats don't have subpoena power right now. And I do wonder if Democrats win the House in 2026, come 2027, if they have the majority, how aggressively will they investigate this? And will voters care? You do think about regular people the fact that Cynthia Lummis is being critical of this dinner, she really, as Rhonda said, is like the biggest cheerleader for crypto, owns a lot of it. And it shows that there is some risk that Trump angers people in the crypto world because he is apparently grifting off of it, that it undermines the effort of the industry to claim some respectability.
If you want to hear more about the crypto dinner and how Trump has minted his own cryptocurrency, why foreign investors are so interested in it, please listen to an interview that Drew did with our colleague Colby Ickowitz on Post Reports. That was this past Tuesday. Really fascinating episode, Drew. Great to have you with us for a few minutes. And I'm picturing you hard at work tonight trying to mine all the information on the interwebs about who was there and get every little kernel and nugget you can tonight to see what trails are left for you.
That's me. I'll be up all night, surrounded by Big Macs. Yeah, watching. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Some people mine crypto. Drew mines the internet for information. You're the richer one, though, right, guys? Drew is the richer one. Thanks, Drew. Thank you also, James Hohmann. Thank you also, Rhonda Colvin. We'll be back for more of Sidebar next week. In the meantime, have a safe and good Memorial Day weekend.